Okay, let's unpack this. We've got a stack of intelligence updates that, when you layer them together, they paint a pretty vivid picture.
They really do.
And what they're showing isn't just a series of, one-off events, but a globally synchronized strategy. So today, we are diving deep into this week's key spy stories and tactical escalations.
And what stands out, instantly, is this central theme connecting everything. Russia and China aren't just pursuing similar goals. They're running parallel, synchronized gray zone experiments.
Right.
They're systematically stress testing Western resolve, but they're doing it deliberately below the threshold of, open declared war.
So our mission today is really to pull apart those specific gray zone tactics, the ones being used right now to achieve what some call psychological shaping. It's not about starting a kinetic war, not yet anyway.
No.
It's about making you, the person listening, and leaders in Western capitals just tired, confused, and slowly getting used to a much higher level of risk.
And that's the perfect definition of the gray zone. It's that murky space where actions are plausible but also deniable. They leverage cyber, disinformation, economic pressure. And what's really fascinating here is the evidence that shows both nations are just ramping up the tempo and coordination.
So these aren't random.
Not at all. These probing attacks are becoming way too numerous and too synchronized to just dismiss as isolated incidents.
That sets the stage perfectly. Let's jump straight into the Russian playbook, which it really seems to be this consistent loop of escalate, deny, and intimidate.
Yeah, and we have to start with the strategic rhetoric, which is getting tougher and tougher. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, he recently put out a pretty crucial message. He explicitly warned that any Western military presence in Ukraine would, quote, instantly become a legitimate target. Now, that's a standard coercive message, but the timing of it.
The timing is everything. So what does it tell us?
It tells us that the rhetoric is married directly to action. That aggressive messaging coincided, almost perfectly, with Russia's renewed and intensified use of long-range ballistic systems.
Against civilian and energy infrastructure.
Exactly. The words are being backed up by some very destructive hardware.
And specifically, we saw reports about the use of the Oreshnik-Hazel ballistic system near Lviv. For anyone not familiar with the hardware, what does deploying a system like that actually signal? Is it just another missile?
Oh, not at all. The Oreshnik is a modern system, and using it, especially that deep into western Ukraine near Lviv, that's a powerful signaling mechanism. It shows they have increased range and a willingness to use these high-value assets far from the front lines.
Okay.
But what's often more revealing than the strike itself is the Kremlin spin, the justification they give right after.
The classic manufacturing of a pretext. They framed that Lviv's strike as direct retaliation for an alleged Ukrainian drone attack on Putin's Valdai residence.
Which brings up a key question for you as you're trying to figure this out. How reliable was that claim?
Not very, right. The intelligence suggests the evidence for that Valdai attack is, well, it's weak, and U.S. intelligence openly disputes it.
Exactly. So what you're seeing is Moscow constructing this deliberate theater. It's all designed to legitimize its own escalation. It's an attempt to fracture that U.S.-Ukraine coordination, to inject doubt into Western capitals.
So the action is kinetic, but the main strategy is actually disinformation.
That's the essence of the gray zone. You use a flimsy or totally false narrative to dilute your responsibility, muddy the waters on attribution, and just try to shape the psychological battlefield.
Let's pivot to the operational reality, because Ukraine isn't just taking these hits. They're actively eroding Russia's rear area sanctuary.
The degradation of Russia's capabilities is undeniable. We saw that significant long-range drone strike on the Energia defense plant in Lipetsk.
And that plant is critical.
Absolutely critical. It produces the batteries for Russia's UAVs, for their missiles, their aerospace systems. Hitting the power source for your enemy's long-range weapons is a massive strategic blow.
And this wasn't the first time. I think that was at least the fourth confirmed hit on that facility. These aren't just symbolic strikes. They are directly and repeatedly degrading the production nodes they need.
And this contrast is fascinating. You have Ukraine's sophisticated deep strike capacity on one side and on the other, Russia's intelligence tradecraft, which gives us this kind of unflattering insight into their current reality.
Oh, so?
Their tradecraft is becoming increasingly low cost and high risk.
That's a huge shift. What
Yeah.
does that kind of desperate adaptation tell you?
It tells you they're constrained,
Yeah.
that their traditional, high-end espionage is being hampered. Ukrainian counterintelligence has been incredibly effective at dismantling these Russian-directed terror and targeting cells.
And the people they're catching are not exactly top-tier spies.
Not at all. We're talking about agents recruited through Telegram job advertisement. Civilians paid tiny sums of money for reconnaissance, even a mobilized Ukrainian serviceman who was acting as an embedded FSB asset.
A Telegram job ad for espionage? I mean, I can just imagine the job description. Must own a smartphone and be willing to risk 15 years in prison. It really underscores this reliance on disposable assets.
It does. It shows that their traditional intelligence gathering, the high-end stuff, is complicated now by electronic warfare and Ukraine's strike reach. So when you can't get your good assets in place, what do? You resort to mass recruitment of desperate, low-quality people who are, frankly, easy to catch. It's a sign of real organizational stress.
So, before we shift to China, let's just wrap up the Russian picture. This external escalation is being synchronized with a really severe internal repression campaign.
And that is the critical piece for their regime's coherence. The legal tightening is just sweeping. There's a package of new laws that dramatically expands FSB authority.
And they're bringing back security service-run detention centers.
Yes, which is a significant regression.
Yeah.
They're also criminalizing foreign agent activity after just a single administrative offense.
So wait, you commit one minor violation, something that might have been a small fine last year, and now you're immediately a criminal in the hands of the security services.
Correct. And these laws allow for broad asset freezes for people convicted in absentia. These measures are designed to basically formalize the wartime mobilization of society itself. Dissent, ambiguity, even just procedural friction is now officially a security threat.
So they're eliminating any friction at home to maximize flexibility abroad.
Precisely. It all feels unnervingly similar to what China is doing.
The synchronization it's undeniable. Let's shift our focus then to the Pacific, where China is running this parallel gray zone experiment centered on Taiwan, specifically with these Justice Mission 2025 exercises.
Yeah, and what's so crucial to see about Justice Mission 2025 is the qualitative threshold they just crossed. They didn't just rehearse near Taiwan.
They went inside Taiwan's contiguous zone.
Exactly. Operations by the PLA Navy and the China Coast Guard inside that zone were normalized.
Okay, so for our listeners, what exactly is the contiguous zone, and why does operating inside it matter so much?
So the contiguous zone is the area that stretches 24 nautical miles from a country's coast. It's traditionally a buffer, It allows for security jurisdiction, but without the immediate threat of hostile action. By routinely operating inside it, China is systematically eroding this long-standing physical and psychological buffer that was designed to prevent miscalculation.
It sounds like an escalation designed not for an immediate invasion, but for constant, persistent psychological pressure.
Precisely. The drills rehearse blockade mechanics, airspace disruption, maritime encirclement, not an immediate occupation. It signals a preference for coercion, for establishing a new, more aggressive status quo. They want to habituate the entire region to living under the constant threat of being surrounded.
And cyber warfare is structurally integrated into all of this. It's not just some add-on.
Oh, it is absolutely central to their model. Taiwan reports that Chinese cyber attacks averaged roughly 2.6 million per day in 2025.
2.6 million a day.
It's a staggering number. And the intensity peaked dramatically during military exercises. They're basically using cyber as a form of non-kinetic artillery.
And what were they targeting in that barrage?
The big ones were energy grids, hospitals, communications, and, significantly, the semiconductor ecosystems. It aligns perfectly with a campaign designed to paralyze civilian governance without ever firing a shot. They want to show they can shut society down remotely.
And that confidence doesn't stop at Taiwan's borders. It extends right into our own political systems.
And that's where the analysis gets truly unsettling for Western planners. Reporting indicates that the China-linked hacking group, Salt Typhoon, successfully compromised email systems used by staffers on key U.S. House committees.
Defense and intelligence committees. I mean, that is a serious infringement on democratic processes.
It fits a broader pattern. This isn't random. It's about pre-positioning access to sensitive political networks before a crisis. So if a crisis over Taiwan erupts, having access to the communication channels of decision makers is critical for them. It slows down the Western response.
So they're making sure they have the levers to pull when the time comes. Okay, so let's bring these two threads together. We have the brazen, pretext-driven Russian escalation and this calculated, normalizing Chinese coercion. What's the unifying theme?
The unifying theme is deliberate, iterative, gray zone escalation. It's iterative. They keep practicing. Russia uses disinformation, sabotage, kinetic signals below the NATO threshold. It's about shock and denial.
Right.
China blends these massive cyber attacks with cognitive warfare and maritime pressure to just habituate everyone to a new aggressive normal.
Hmm.
It's about slow, persistent erosion.
And you said earlier they're not acting in silos. There's a learning curve happening between them.
Yes, they are actively learning from each other. They're cross-pollinating tactics on sanctions evasion, on using shadow fleets, on securing cyber access, on managing escalation. Each one watches how the other probes Western red lines and then adapts those tactics to their own theater.
So this isn't just a collection of spy stories. What does this mean for us?
It means these actions should not be read as isolated provocations. They are iterative rehearsals. They're designed to compress Western decision timelines and normalize high risk. So if a genuine crisis does happen, the environment is already preconditioned for confusion and a delayed response.
That's a powerful analysis. And understanding this synchronized approach it's essential for telling the difference between a manufactured crisis, like that false avow by pretext, and genuine, irreversible threat signaling. If we don't see the pattern, we risk just accepting this untenable level of risk.
Which leaves us with the final question. If we accept that both regimes are actively learning from each other's gray zone probes, how can the West possibly prepare for an entirely new form of synchronized multi-domain pressure, one that's designed specifically to overwhelm our decision-making cycles?
What area will they test next? Cyber, legal, physical?
And how will they coordinate it to create the maximum amount of confusion? That's the strategic question we all need to be asking.
A perfect final thought for everyone to mull over. Thank you for guiding us through that incredibly dense but critical intelligence landscape.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.